Hi, my name is zmorrow. I go to Elkins High School. I'm a senior, and I'm a member of the Class of 2021 TT Mentorship Program. I was able to mentor at the Fort Bend Star under Stefan Modric, so big shout out to them and him for giving me all of these opportunities, including the opportunity to have made this presentation that I will be giving to y'all. So, I'll be sharing my screen now. So, I decided to do my project on the spread of information journalism in the time of COVID-19. So, a little introduction. What is journalism? Well, according to the American Press Institute, the purpose of journalism is thus to provide citizens with the information they need to make the best possible decisions about their lives, their communities, their societies, and their governments. Now, going off of that, journalism seems pretty important in any group or society or sort of group of people living together. Especially in closer forms where we enter community journalism, community newspapers. I happen to intern, as I said, or mentor, as I said, at the Fort Bend Star, which is a community newspaper, and it is a very close knit sort of environment in which we, despite the pandemic, still had people knocking on our door to tell us stories and things that were happening and events that they thought we needed to cover, and we did end up covering a lot of them. It's different than maybe, say, CNN or the BBC because it works less of a world standpoint than a community standpoint, which means maybe not doing what I'm interested in because I might be interested in something that my neighbor or my neighbor's aunt might not be interested in. So it's a lot of being more specific and knowing exactly what you're going for. Being connected to your audience is just super important because not only are they helping you by obviously giving you a job, but you're also helping them. You're informing people. You are telling them a fair, balanced, and accurate sort of reading of what's going on in the world. And that's pretty important in a lot of areas of society. So, yeah. The impact of the virus. Obviously, the virus impacted a lot of people in a lot of different ways, but also a lot of similar ways. As this meeting format shows, we're all on Zoom, we're all on Teams, we're all on FaceTime, all of these different various ways to connect with each other that aren't by knocking on each other's doors like we would have beforehand. And now there are a lot of areas of journalism, like maybe taking pictures or catching people off the street during a protest that are a lot different. And we've moved to a lot more of technology. And journalism, if you look to major in it, is a communications major, and communication is a huge part of what we do. So, despite the pandemic, because we were such a small environment, we did have people knocking on the door with their mask on saying, hey, this is a thing. We also had plenty of people emailing and calling, and we did a lot of over the phone and even Zoom interviews. Um, and there were a lot of public events, school news conferences, meetings, events, just general things that were put out that couldn't be attended anymore. So finding ways to still report on what was going on in the world, there was some creative MacGyvering going on. And I remember my main thing was noticing a bunch of very social people have to adapt like that to not being able to socialize and communicate like they usually do, and it was very interesting to see. Um, and like every single other interest industry, there were positive and negative effects. A lot of people I surveyed people from a bunch of community newspapers around our area. A lot of people mentioned mental health as something. And as I was saying, this is a very social industry, you know. People come in and out, they're always talking to people. There's a lot of communication, there's a lot of writing, there's always some sort of call or an email that's going out or being answered. Um, and normally that might happen by coming up to somebody's place or meeting at a coffee shop or something like that. And I know while at the start there weren't many people in general, the amount of people that were working from home versus working in the office kind of showed that the people that were there in person, I had the grace to be in person. The people that were there in person were really there for the social aspect, and the people that weren't there missed it. So a lot of people are doing their best. I would say that probably it's given a lot of different outcomes. So one of the things that I noticed while I was there was I was always confused at these press conferences how everyone was getting their questions asked. So I asked, and I was told that instead of sending somebody from the Fort Bend Star, from the Fort Bend Sun, from the Houston Chronicle, etc., they would all go to one reporter, and everyone would email that one person their questions, and it led to just one person going out there and asking everybody's questions so that everyone could still get their questions asked and answered. There weren't thousands of hundreds of however many people would be there in a small room. And there was also a way to communicate. You know, these people might not have talked to each other much more or were just desperate for some sort of human contact. And now they have an excuse almost to email each other. It was kind of cool, kind of sweet. And a bunch of other things, but also the main thing I noticed was a big push towards technology. So get to that right now. So just like almost everything else in these times, journalism, especially print, is trying to turn to technology to keep up with everything. While I was there, I witnessed the changing of platforms on a website for the Fort Bend Star. So it was interesting to see how all of the little inner workings of putting a print newspaper into a website was. It was very interesting, especially since it was a weekly thing. There were always things sort of popping out here and there on the website, and then it was a weekly physical paper, and that took a little bit of learning on my end. And another thing is we also post on Facebook and Twitter and other social media platforms, which in community newspapers, keeping in touch with your community is, as I said, very important because you're not writing for yourself, you're writing for this little unit. And keeping in touch with them, their ideas, what they like, what they don't, what they need to hear, what they don't care about, you know, is very important. And technology gives you that in seconds, in minutes, in just instants. You get instant feedback, you get to quickly deliver information, which with instant feedback, we've noticed you can tell very quickly. Um, it's posting things on Facebook and Twitter. It's what you would expect. You get some really nice things like, oh, yeah, that's my niece's basketball game. I'm so proud of her. Or, oh my God, I used to go to so and so high school. I'm so glad that they won the football tournament or something. And you also get people on Facebook and Twitter who are not so nice. But as I was saying, also with the articles being able to be spread, maybe if I have family in Louisiana, I have family in France, I have family in Virginia, I have family other places, I can send them an article that I helped write and they still get to see it without me having to mail them a newspaper clipping, which would have been a little weird these days. Um, and I think the thing I noticed the most was during the freeze, we had a lot of information coming in from a bunch of different places, a bunch of different people that we all needed to sort of condense and get out to the community because they needed to know what was going on with things like water, boil water restrictions, power when we were getting it, why we weren't, things like that. And having to sort of do a little bit of fact checking behind the scenes, throwing everything together in a way that's comprehensible, and all of that was interesting for me to watch while, you know, on 60% of my phone battery. Because that was what we had, and seeing the sort of bang 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 that having the instant sort of happening of technology happen was a unique experience. So yeah, and I think that it's been important also with corona to stay together. It's been, if I do email that article to my aunt in Virginia, I don't really talk to that aunt. Maybe now I can speak to her again, whereas we didn't get to see each other for the past few Thanksgivings or birthdays or Christmases or other holidays that we've been able to miss out on. Now we have a way to talk, so it's sort of expanded this social connection. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. That is the end of my presentation. If anyone has any questions, I would love to hear them. If not, I'm very glad for you to have come to this presentation. I appreciate all of you coming, and I'm sure all of the other students do as well. Um, We really thought that we were gonna be able to do this in person, but I think we all knew that there was gonna be something happening, so it means a lot that people still came and are still gonna watch this, so thank you, see you later, and I hope that someday we can see each other in person again.